pleasure and honor to sit in front of you, my colleagues, students, friends, to deliver my presentation. The topic of my presentation is a translation between accuracy and acceptability. I'm going to start my presentation with two questions. The first one is, what is accuracy? And the second one, what is acceptability? Accuracy is achieved when translators try to do their best to reflect the content of the source text in full without omission, addition, manipulation, etc. In other words, to achieve accuracy, translators need to pay attention to the source text and its author. And the translation going to be what? Going to be text-author oriented. The relationship between the source text and the target text will be strong. But when we talk about acceptability, we talk about issues such as readability, naturalness, cohesion, coherence, etc. Acceptability is achieved when translators pay extra attention to the linguistic and stylistic norms of the target language, when translators exercise more freedom in dealing with the segments of the text at hand, when translators consciously and subconsciously try to get rid of any features that might strike the target language readers as unusual. In the 18th century, Tytler, in his volume Principles of Translation 1791, drew attention to three principles that should be taken into account by translators. The first one, the contents or ideas of the source text should be transferred completely into the target language. Here we talk about accuracy. The second principle, the style and manner of the source text should be retained in the target language. Again, we talk about accuracy. But the third one, the translation should have all the ease of the original composition. Here we shift the focus of attention towards acceptability. In the 19th century, Schleiermacher, in his essay entitled On the Different Methods of Translating, holds that the translator either leaves the writer alone as much as possible and moves the reader towards the writer, or no, the translator leaves the reader alone as much as possible and moves the writer towards the reader. When you, as a translator, bring the reader to the writer, means you pay attention to the accuracy. But when you bring the writer to the reader, means you take care of acceptability. Now let's move to equivalence-based theories. We have a number of theories proposed by a number of scholars. Nieder 1964, Catford 1965, House 1977, Newmark 1981, Gott 1991, and Vennotti 1995. I classify them into two main types, reader-oriented or text-author-oriented. For example, Nieder's classify translation into two main types, formal equivalence and dynamic equivalence. A year later, Catford also classified translation into two types, formal correspondent and textual equivalent. House, overt translation, covert translation, Newmark, semantic translation, communicative translation, and Gott 1991, direct translation, indirect translation, and in 1995, Vennotti classified translation into two main types, formalization or domestication. When you pay attention to the reader, and then you're going to have what? Acceptable translation. But when you pay attention to the source text or the original author, your translation will be what? Accurate. We have already discussed that. Now let's move to norm theory, or sometimes you call it normative approach. Toury and Hermans were the first to seriously bring the concept of norm to the fore in translation studies. Norms, therefore, are social regulation mechanisms which make certain choices by the translator more likely than others. Norms will normally tell you what is correct and what is not, what is adequate and what is not, what is appropriate and what is not. Toury 1995 classified norms into three main types. The first one, preliminary norms, refer to either translation policy, That's to say, the factors that determine the selection of the source text for translation, or the directness of translation, whether the translation is directly from the source language or through another language. And the second type of norms, according to Toury, initial norms. Here we talk about your global strategy. Your global strategy, either reader-oriented or text-author-oriented. When you pay attention to the reader, and then you're gonna achieve acceptability. But when you pay attention to the source text or the original author, your translation will be adequate or accurate. And the third type of norms, according to Toury, operational norms, refer to local strategies taken by you as a translator when you face a particular problem, such as omission, addition, manipulation, and so on. In 1997, another scholar called Chesterman classified norms in a completely different way. Chesterman classified norms into 4 types. The first one is expectancy norm. It refers to the acceptability and appropriateness in a certain text type. The second norm, according to Chesterman, is relation norm. The relationship between the source text and the target text. If the relationship is strong, then your translation is adequate or accurate. But when the relationship between the source text and the target text is weak, then your translation is acceptable. Why? Because you pay attention to the reader. And the third type of norms is accountability norm, which is related to the ethics of translation. The translator, according to this norm, should make sure of tricky points and confusing matters by double checking the draft. And the last one is communication norm. It refers to the communicative maxims proposed by Grice 1975, such as quantity, quality, relevance, and manner. Now let's move to Skopos theory, the purpose of translation. The purpose of translation, or Skopos, is a crucial parameter that determines the final shape of the translation. Yes, we agree with them to a certain degree, but there are a number of factors that need to be taken into account by the translator in addition to the purpose of translation. According to the Skopos theory, there are 3 types of purpose. The first one, the general purpose, that is to say the translator's motivation, such as gaining reputation, earning a living, and so on. Why do you translate? We can borrow terms from the sociological approach proposed by Pierre Bourdieu when he talks of capital, and he classified capital into 3 main types: cultural capital, social capital, and economical capital. Why do you translate? Sometimes you translate because you are looking for money. Sometimes you translate because you know the author and you have a good relationship with the author. Sometimes no, you translate because you would like to add something to your own CV. And the second type is the communicative purpose. What is the purpose of the target text? What is the function of the target text in the target language? Is it for persuading, instructing, or just for information? And the third type is the purpose of the translation strategy itself. Why is a certain strategy adopted while others are excluded? The general rules of Skopos theory can be summarized as follows. First, it is the Skopos of the translation that determines the shape of the translation. We have already mentioned that, and we said not only the purpose of translation, but also we have a number of factors that should be taken into account by translators. Knowing the purpose behind the translation enables the translator to opt for a certain global strategy, thus excluding other available strategies. Yes. Number 2, there should be intertextual coherence or fidelity between the source text and the tag text. That's to say, there should be a relationship between the source text and the tag text. Otherwise, we cannot call it translation anymore. We can call it rewriting. Here we talk about accuracy, and also we talk about relation norm proposed by Chesterman, and also we talk about ethics of translation. And the third rule is the rule of integrity of the target text itself. That's to say, the target text must be intratextually coherent. Here we talk about acceptability.